Hello and welcome to Express Sports Podcast. You're listening to Game Time, and Vinayakk, Amit and I, Mihir, are joined with a very special guest. She has been a pioneer of Indian sport. Shooting is the sport we'll be talking about today, and shall be doing something different than usual. We'll not be analyzing a lot of action that's happened over the week, but what we'll be doing is basically an explainer over something that on surface looks a profound change in the sport of shooting, rifle shooting, where the International Federation has proposed some rule changes which will be in effect starting 2026 once ratified. And we shall be breaking down those rules, not amongst us, because Amit, Vinayakk and I, hum kitna hi dissect kar lenge. So we got a very special person to do that. Deepali Deshpande, former India shooter, a stalwart in her own sense, and the coach of the Indian shooting team, who's been to multiple Olympics and shaped many careers of world and Olympic medalists and champions. Deepali ma'am, welcome to Express Sports Podcast. Thank you for taking your time out.
Thank you, Mihir. Thanks a lot.
So, ma'am, we'll right away dive into this thing. First of all, to kind of summarize the rule changes, we'll go into the details slowly. But the change broadly is about the equipment in rifle shooting, the measurement of the jackets, the kind of shoes that the rifle shooters will be wearing. And I found it particularly interesting that the International Federation in their proposal said it was to curb quote-unquote technological doping and to bring down the scores which had hit the ceilings. As someone who's been involved in shooting, I don't know, for 4 decades now?
Yes, 38 years.
38 years. How do you see these changes and how big are these changes?
Changes, to be very honest, Mihir, these changes, they are big, maybe to some extent for some athletes who have started with, these rules. See, the rules for equipment rules had been there since our times, and more or less the rules are the same. But during our times, or, till around, say, 2004-5, they were not so strongly implemented because nobody really had that kind of access to these equipment, or, nobody had that kind of resources to make the most out of these rules, like, find loopholes, build equipment which falls into the norms of whatever ISSF had already had in place and still give extra advantage. But I can say after around 2018 onwards, like it was available to Indians even before 2018, because if you see, the Kapapi Sports is essentially an Indian manufacturer of the kit equipment that is being used right now. And it is being used by almost, 90% of athletes all over the world. And that started happening from 2018. And then it came into, light that it is giving extraordinary advantage and all that stuff. So the rules that they are changing, they just want to curb that extra advantage that it is giving to athletes, where skill becomes secondary and, this support of the kit becomes primary. And because of that, lot of that is happening in India also, but even abroad, like a lot of other coaches also were complaining that they have very young shooters. And then after a certain point, they just vanish. So that hierarchy, or, that climbing a ladder gradually, that thing is gone, and it is not good for sport. This way the sport will die very soon. So, this was the issue. Like, I always felt that this is not right, and something should be done as an athlete and as a coach, because we see sports as something that helps up an individual to grow well. But here that growth was kind of fabricated, you can say. It was very sudden, and the drop was also as sudden. So that was not what we work for.
And you mentioned, the existence of the sport, and that's something that the International Federation also mentioned, where after the Paris Olympics, the feedback that they received wasn't that great, both in terms of how the sport looked on TV and the International Olympic Committee as well. So I'll just quickly summarize the rule changes before bringing in Amit, who's been waiting patiently. So the first thing is the canvas. Now, it'll be important for anyone listening to this to kind of, first maybe look at the picture of a rifle shooter, because this sport is extremely technical. So you have an image of a shooter in front of you, perhaps that will be helpful. So you have a canvas around the shoulder and arms, that the thickness of that, it will be changed once the rule comes into force. Then the button tolerance has been increased from 70 millimeters to 80 millimeters. It's just a 10 millimeter difference, but it means that the jacket will be less tight fitting. Then there will be the thickness, the double canvas in the lower back area of the trouser, that will be changed into single canvas. So again, the thickness will be different over there. And perhaps heartbreakingly, Deepali ma'am, for all of us, we won't be seeing the penguin walks anymore, because the shoes, the rifle shoes are also now changed, and they'll be wearing normal sneakers going forward. So basically, I think they're trying to take away as much balance and support as possible from the shooters. And I guess it will be more towards skills. Ma'am, we'll want your views, but Amit, do you want to come in before that?
Yeah, Mir, also, I think just for clarification, these rules kind of will only apply to rifles. This also one thing we need to mention for people who are probably listening to this podcast and maybe don't understand the differences, that this applies only for rifles, not so much to pistols or not so much to shotgun events. But ma'am, wanted to understand from you, in terms of scores, how much difference do you see these rules changes kind of bringing about?
There will be definitely some difference. Scores will come down a bit, but not as much as these rules, on the first look, what it seems, it's not going to affect so drastically, because you have to understand, even if we take the Indian shooting arena, a lot of top athletes are already physically fit, those who are very consistent at the topmost level. So maintain that consistency, even with the old rules, like the current rules, they need to have a very strong physique. Okay. So for them, it is like it will just take them some time to adjust to these rules. And if you read these rules carefully, they haven't changed the stiffness. Stiffness previously also it was 3 mm. Now also the allowed permissible stiffness is 3 mm. So stiffness will be the same. But the layer you can use to get that stiffness will be just one. Right now they use double canvas. So that double canvas will go. We can use only single layer. So in my opinion, the scores will go back what they were in 2018-19. Because that was the time when, the overall worldwide, there were different manufacturers providing different kind of equipment, and that those were widely used. And the major difference that will happen is you won't see, just in 2 years somebody rising to the top. That thing will not happen anymore. Everybody would have to work their way to the top.
Is there a reason why you won't see suddenly any shooter coming up?
Yeah, because what happens is, because this stiffness and thickness and the kit basically, that gives you a lot of external support. And even the new shooter, if he understands the basic technique, very, very basics finely, and if the kit fits him well, the shooter can shoot, 30 plus scores, 630 plus scores very easily. You see so many youngsters producing those scores in, 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years time. But the skill level or the fitness levels are not so good. And of course, these shooters, they don't remain at the top for a very long time. But then coming to that level also, I think, it should be gradual. If we want a real talent to come up and stay there for a longer time. So that is not happening right now. So that will happen. If you see from 2018 to now, and especially you see this trend in even 3-position event, where previously it used to take a long time for athletes to really excel in this sport. So yeah, that trend will be reversed a little.
Hi, ma'am. This is Vinayk here. Thanks again for all your insights. My question is, so just to summarize, would it be fair to say that the youngsters would have to do a little more work in terms of skills, and this would kind of bring in the because we see like shooting is trending towards becoming youngster sports. We see a lot of teenagers coming through, not just in India, around the world.
Yeah.
But this now brings in the slightly more experienced, the people who have the skills to still succeed, brings them back into the fold. Would it be fair to say?
Yeah, I think for any sport to survive and stay for a long time, the shelf life of an athlete is also very important. See, these are not very commercially very viable sport. If you just have then 3, 4, like 1 or 2 Olympic cycles, to perform or to excel, then it doesn't become a very viable career option or investment option also. So when you invest so much money, energy, and especially the time of youth, then there has to be, I won't say guaranteed output, but at least some kind of like the longer shelf life is always a better option. It always gives hope to athletes that, okay, I can stay longer in the sport. So that is very important. And in India, it may not seem very difficult because of the population, general population. But the smaller countries, they are already facing this issue that younger athletes come in and they replace the experienced one. And then experienced one don't have the resources to continue or compete. And then they leave. So that is not good for sport.
Makes sense. And that's kind of what I was hinting at. What have you seen is the reaction on the ground initially? I mean, generally, when there are these changes to any sport in any discipline, there is a little bit of shock. But what was the reaction
little with the youngsters, or you can say little, relatively new shooters, because the elite athletes, they're already working. They have been working on their, say, skill or their fitness for quite some time. So they are very comfortable. We tried in the camp also, we tried making them shoot without shoes, without trousers, without jackets. And they're all comfortable that way. We are all aware that now we cannot shoot that, extraordinary, unbelievable scores, which, suddenly everybody started shooting for 636, 635. So that will come down a little to, say, the range will be 628 to 632, which is, again, not bad. And that is still 632 is still considered a good score. But the general average will come down little by 4 to 5 points. And in air rifle, and in 50-meter events also, like I don't think you will see 595, 597 so easily. It will be somewhere around 587 to 592. It will settle there. So the effect will be not so drastic in terms of results. But yeah, in terms of the general working of sport, it will definitely change a lot of things.
Ma'am, just before Mihir comes in, I wanted to ask one question. In practicality, what does this mean now? Does that mean that those original jackets that were bought by shooters, do they have to be discarded, or can they be, again, there can be some jugaad?
Not jugaad. Like, NRA arranged a meeting with all not current elite athletes, but Olympians and awardees. And with, we included Nilesh Rane also, who's the owner of Kapapi Sports, to understand, what changes we need to make. So they have said that, the stiffness of material remains the same, but they have put the conditions, right? Currently, the rule says the 3 mm stiffness, that when you put the material in the machine, the stiffness checking machine, within 60 seconds, it should reach 3 mm threshold. So now they have reduced this time to 15 seconds for single layer and 30 seconds for double layer. So we can just cut out the inner layer, like inner lining. Shooters just have to remove inner lining and use the same jacket. And the outer lining itself, like that might pass just on border this new condition, that 3 mm in 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that way shooters have to, get new equipment right away. They can use the old equipments with these changes for maybe a year or two and then get the new one.
Right.
Man, as a coach, how important does your role get now? Because I think there will be a lot of shooters, especially like you mentioned, the younger ones, who perhaps will have to, learn, but at least focus on a lot of skills, the basic skills. What happens now up to, say, end of this year before the rules take effect in 2026?
I think we will see more experienced shooters back in the team. But to be very honest, we already have, like in at least for Indian shooting, you already have those shooters at the top, anyways. Simply because they, over the years, because the competition is so stiff, they had constantly been working on their skills and their fitness. So they will remain there. And the younger lot, which, on and off come into the team or very close to the team, they'll have to work a little harder. But to be very honest, during last few years, we had been able to establish a system, and we were really very successful in bringing awareness among shooters that fitness is very, very important for any sport, and even in shooting sport, whatever support this is giving you. So as a coach also, I had always been very vocal about it, that whatever support you are getting or whatever scores you are able to shoot now, if you want to continue performing at this level, you must focus on your fitness. So that doesn't change, even the younger lot. And when even in the, now we are in the national squad camp is going on. So during this camp also, once they published this document, as I said, we started training them, without boots, without trousers, without jackets, just for them to understand that, which are the areas they need to work on now going forward. So yeah, we are there to guide them and help them on these all these aspects. And it's just a good thing is because they got a high start. So they have a good self-image and the level of confidence. So now they will definitely strive harder to reach that place again if at all they go down. So yeah, that is one thing very positive. And yeah, now the general ecosystem in Indian shooting has evolved a lot from, in last 10 years. So physical fitness, mental health, and technical expertise, all of these things, everybody is aware of, how much work they need to put in, simply because of the competition they face at national level. So it's not going to affect too badly, but there will be some effect.
Ma'am, just wanted to understand, because you spoke about fitness so much. Let's say there is somebody who is listening to this podcast and they are, amateur shooters or somebody who's looking to breaking it into the national team. Can you explain for them how fitness can kind of help them bridge the gap with what they will lose with this equipment cut tweak?
See, even when we started shooting, like I was in NCC, so I was much fitter than a regular girl who's just going to college every day. So the general good fitness, generally, if you are playing any other sport, you already have a certain level of fitness. So for shooting sport, to start with, general fitness is also good enough. And then as you move forward with, you learn basics, you get good posture, you learn the technical nitty-gritties of the sport, and then you gradually grow. Why I'm happy about these rules is they will grow gradually and not, suddenly you grow to reach the peak and then you drop down. So especially that is not good for their general growth also and for their sporting life, because then after that they keep struggling to reach back and it hampers their self-image. The gradual growth is more sustainable and long-lasting. So they just need to work gradually on themselves. The general fitness is good enough to get started with the shooting sport.
Got it. Ma'am, we'll start wrapping up this thing, just these rule changes, of course, you've explained them pretty well. Just about the shoes, I wanted to understand. Right now, we had flat soles and it gave complete balance, I think, when the shooters were standing at the range. Now, what kind of shoes are we looking at and how much will those impact? Will shoes actually matter more than the jacket or?
Shoes will matter more than jacket and trousers, because the shoes where we are currently using, high ankle boots, the flat soles are okay. You use them for a long time and then they bend. So flat soles are still okay. And you can have flat soles in normal sneakers also. But more than that, the support it was giving to your ankle joint or, ankle, that will be gone now. And that will add a considerable sway. So that is going to affect the most. Everything else will not affect so much. So that we need to see how shooters adapt to that. But again, you just have to include more balancing exercises. You have to work on your ankle stability. So there is a lot of information now available, a lot of experts available, like very much Indian experts available on these areas. So I think, yeah, little work needs to be done. It will take some time for everyone to settle down, but eventually we will make it. And whatever the rules are, they are same for everyone.
Right. Just, before I proceed, I think Vinayak just has said that he wants to ask something. So, Vinayak, please.
I think you've spoken a lot about the rule changes and all that. Ma'am, I just wanted to understand, like, how do you see the season so far in terms of results? What's caught your eye? What are the areas to improve? I know this was about the rules and stuff, but I also wanted to discuss where we are headed. How happy are you with?
Yeah, I'm very happy, honestly. Because I always believe that as Indian shooting arena has been growing gradually since say 1994 onwards. If you see every Olympic cycle, we were going one step forward. And of course, Rio and Tokyo, they're not very happy about. But even that is like Rio, I think it was like a transition time. We were like banking a lot on individuals' effort. But from Rio onwards, we started putting that is the time when, all these as a team or a national shooting arena, the entire ecosystem, we started building the ecosystem around the sport where at national level, all shooters had these facilities available. So from Rio onwards, that was, it was kind of, I always call it system generated results. So that's why Tokyo was important. But of course, COVID hit us and we were not ready for it. Out of the ordinary, we were not ready for that. But in Paris, we were ready for anything. And we delivered. So this is my belief that, going forward, we should, it is a much higher leap towards LA. And so that's why this season, like the first year, kind of Olympic year for 2028 Olympics. So here if you see in all three World Cups, we were like in top three leading countries. And we won, I think, on an average, minimum 4 medals we had in all these three World Cups. And we won individual medals. So like the World Cups are all about individual medals. So individually and different individuals won medal for us. So that says a lot about our general strength or bench strength. And all three World Cups had different level of participation, different challenges like Argentina, Peru, very windy ranges, very difficult ranges. Munich, relatively easier range, but the highest participation. So the competition was very, very stiff. So in all three World Cups, in different situations also, we won. So that says a lot about our readiness right now. So going forward, and there are a lot of factors I can see where we need to put some work. So once we do that, we will go much higher. So I'm really very happy about the season. And now going forward, we have now Asian Shooting Championship and most importantly, World Championship in November. So that by the end of this year, this picture will be really clear. So we know where we stand right now and which are the areas where we need to work to make sure that at LA we have, the best of the performances.
I think you mentioned there briefly, there is a breadth of talent to pick from. You're not like individual driven. I think rifle is a good example of that. I think especially 10-meter women's, the talent pool that we have, the competition is so heavy.
If you see, now we are sending team B to China, team A to Asian Shooting Championship. You see the team formation. You cannot make out which is team A and which is team B. So we have Olympic quota winners, even Olympic medalists in team B now. So both the teams are equally strong right now. So that's the kind of bench strength we have, and we created this and this kind of bench strength you have only if you have all the systems in place. So yeah, a lot of credit goes to, of course, NRAI, SAI, our sports ministry, and also to the individual academies, like private academies. They had been working for quite some time. So it's like an entire ecosystem working in a coordinated way that is giving us these results.
Ma'am, one final question, ma'am, from my side. I wanted to understand, you said that the shoes will be something that has the biggest impact on scores or, how shooters' performance goes. When you tried this in the national camp, asking shooters to shoot without the shoes, how much of a difference was that? Was that very radical as compared to without the jackets, with, different jackets, things like that?
Honestly, not very radical. It's like some of the top athletes, they perform the same as they perform otherwise. But they were like, not all of them. Out of, say, I have 16 shooters. So one shooter shot 198 in standing. That's amazing. Or 196 in standing. That's amazing. But otherwise, that same shooter shoots 199 or 198. So say 2 points down. But that was like on the first day when we asked them to do that. So if we work harder on the challenge, then we can even reach that 199, 200 score mark. But again, see, if you have 5 or 10 shooters shooting 198, maybe after these changes, we will have just 3-4 doing it. So, depending upon how much work they put in.
Incredible, ma'am. I think it's been a wonderful education for us listening to your explanations on this new rule changes. And, shooting is a sport of patience, and you've been patient enough to answer all our questions. So thank you for that, ma'am. And thank you to all our listeners for listening to our podcast regularly and tuning in. We will be back with a new episode of Game Time next week. Thanks again, Deepali, ma'am, and thanks again for listening.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.